welcome to Business Agility Dubai webinar. And we are so excited because it's our first webinar in this platform. We organize lots of webinars, but it will be first under with the Business Agility Dubai. So we are so excited, and I want to introduce our community leader to explain some information about our community. And then also we will invite Scott and we will discuss about lots of different topics, also nowadays topics, one of them AI. So let's invite Ridwan and then we will discuss about the other topics together. Welcome, Ridwan.
Hi, Alan. Hi, everyone. As you already mentioned that we had lots of webinars now, but that is different. That's first webinar for us as Business Agility Dubai. Actually, we are calling it Business Agility MENA, and we started our journey from Dubai. So that is really exciting moments for us as volunteer group. We need to say that our maybe personal life, and also we spent more than 15 years in volunteer groups. Me, Eren, and lots of our community volunteers spent lots of times in different volunteer groups in all over the world. So we decided to build new community in that region, particularly because in the region, in Gulf region and also MENA region, there are lots of places to improve awarenesses of agility. Our main focus to encourage companies, not only companies, encourage also country authorities to improve, to enhance their environment for our future generations and also ourselves, right? And because of that, we started our journey with very lovely volunteers. We have more volunteers. Day to day, our volunteers also joining, new volunteers joining our community. So we will do lots of webinars, seminars, and also some summits together with these community members. So stay tuned.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I think Scott is excited to answer our challenging questions.
Yeah, of course.
So we need to invite him. And welcome, Scott.
Hi, great to be
Hi.
here. Thank you.
Nice, welcome.
Yeah, great to see you again, Scott. So we will talk about different topics in today. So, but let's start with the easy topic and the first topic. Who is Scott Ambler?
Yeah, definitely my favorite topic. So it's always good to talk about it. Yeah. So as you know, I'm one of the co-creators along with Mark Lyons of PMI's Disciplined Agile toolkit. The focus of which was on a hybrid approach to business agility. I'm also the thought leader behind Agile modeling and Agile data, two methods from about 20 years ago, which are still going strong. Agile modeling has been basically, the ideas it captured have been adopted across the Agile landscape, actually. And Agile data is a huge focus for me right now as I'm focusing on AI. I went back to school a little over a year ago to do a master's in AI. So I'm here today to share some of the good things I'm learning and applying in some cases with customer organizations.
That is good. You are still learning and you are...
Always.
Yeah. So that's cool. The second question, again, we are here about business agility community. So business agility has a different perspective. So we want to listen listen your perspective. What is business agility for you? And then we will go to AI topics together.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I've actually always preferred the term enterprise agility rather than business agility, simply because many government organizations take offense to the word business or company or things like that. And frankly, the concepts of business agility are applicable to all types of organizations or enterprises, not just business organizations. But anyways, so business agility or enterprise agility to me is the ability of an organization to understand and react and like sense and respond to what's happening in the marketplace or in the case of government agencies to their citizens in order to better serve them and to better interact with them, to better bring value to them. So enterprise agility is applicable to all aspects of your organization, not just the software team. So even though Agile, for the most part, came out of the software world, it's the underlying concepts are applicable across the organization, but they've got to change. They've got to evolve, and this is one of the things we did in DA was to purposely not focus on software development, which is easier said than done sometimes.
That's good. So, Ridwan, maybe you can ask the next question.
Yeah.
I have one question, but I'm starting to
Yeah.
ask some question. Then
Yeah. Till now, we shared easy questions, but I want to ask you the tough question, maybe. Generally, as communities, volunteers, and also some companies and also authorities, we are suggesting to start with why, Scott. So why we need to talk about AI? What is your perspective on this?
Well, I think AI is certainly taken off in the marketplace in the last year or so, particularly with the work of OpenAI. It's really sort of caught everybody's attention. Although, frankly, anybody who owns a smartphone has been walking around with an AI device in their pocket for a decade or so. With Alexa and Siri and whatever's on the Microsoft platform. But and it's all good. And we've been using AI. If you use a weather app to find out what the weather is going to be over the next few days, that's pure AI. They're predicting the weather several days out. In some cases, a week or so out now. And so it's all good stuff. So I think AI is here. It's been here for a long time. It's here to stay. We're going to be applying AI across the organization. I'm seeing this now. It's not just the tech, not just the tech companies that are doing this, banks, insurance companies, government agencies. Here in Canada, there's a very large movement within the federal Canadian government, as well as the provincial level as well, to apply AI to better serve the citizens of Canada. So I'm sure that's also true. And I know for a fact it's true in the MENA countries. I was at a conference in Dubai about a year ago now, and AI had to be about half the talks. So, and a lot of it was how AI is being applied within governments as well as within businesses.
Yeah.
That's good. So the next question, so we can combine business agility and AI together, and I will ask one question, mix both of these topics. So we are talking about project managers, agile coaches, enterprise agile coaches, different type of agilists. So how may AI benefits and that agilists when we talk about that topic?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I'm seeing some very interesting work being done in Agile coach chatbots, I guess you could say. And here's this Scrum bot or something, and go ask it questions that you would normally ask a coach, or you would normally look up online or read in a book or something. So just this basic bringing knowledge to people and bringing options to people is something that we're seeing. I think some sort of automated chatbot for process improvement, just helping out in retrospectives is would be a very classic use case for AI. But also, we're seeing it built into tools. So for software development teams, there's all the Copilot tools, for example. There's you can go and use, I guess, as Bard on Microsoft, and it'll help you write code in your browser, or let alone if you're on GitHub and you're purposely using Copilot. So you got to be smart about that, because sometimes the code is not the greatest. And there's actually there was a recent study that came out a few weeks ago showing that the code being written by Copilot is of lower quality than the code being written purely by humans on average. So, but having said that, the way I use it is I'll use this Copilot, code coaching functionality to give me suggestions and to help me remember things. I'm not going to remember. I'm doing a lot of coding in Python right now. I'm not going to remember the ins and outs of loops. Well, actually I do, but the ins and outs of writing, of iterating over an array, say, right? I'm just going to ask Copilot, hey, iterate over an array, boom, there it is. And I update the code and I use it. So just for little code snippets, it's fantastic. And has greatly increased my productivity because I'm doing less lookup and focusing on the real business value. So there's that, but also I'm seeing AI built into the tools that we're using. I'm seeing AI built into the tools that product owners are using and other people. Like, for example, if you're using any of Windows 360 or Microsoft 365, Office 365, that's what I'm looking for. It's got all the Copilot functionality built in right now. So everybody on the team is using that stuff. So a lot of great things are happening. So we're seeing AI augmenting the workflow and the behaviors of people in general, including Agilists. So it's really a great opportunity to help me or help people in general to just improve, take some of the drudgery work out of whatever it is that we happen to be doing right now.
Yeah, very well. As you already mentioned, we are listening lots of AI stories, and also we are trying to observe some other aspect in terms of using AI in our daily life. But I know that you have some different angle about that. What isn't AI? How can we describe that?
Yeah, so it's not magic, and I think but it appears magical. It is because there's a lot of there's significant layers of abstraction going on. So people use ChatGPT, for example, to type in, prompt it, and it outspews some text, and that appears magical, and they don't realize this. That's just basic processing going on in the background, based on sometimes decades old technologies. And that's great. That's great. But so a lot of stuff is happening in the background, and you don't realize how it's built or why it does what it does. So I think there's that. So it appears magical, but it really isn't. And that I think is problematic, because you've got to realize what the limits are. So the GPT technology, its primary purpose is to make stuff up, and we'd like to say, well, it's hallucinating, right? But it's interesting, right? So you ask it a question, or create this diagram for me, or create this video for me, or create this music for me, and it spews something out. If you like the answer you got, well, then that was pretty good. If you don't like the answer you got, it was hallucinating, right? So we blame on hallucination, but the fact is it hallucinates 100% of the time. And it's just the quality of the hallucination is what the real issue is here. But you darn well better be on the ball when you use some of that text or some of that code that you produced in the artifacts that you're creating. I was just recently, I recently built an AI based on a technology called RAG, retrieval augmented generation, I believe it is, and RAG. I don't remember the acronyms. I could use an AI to remind me of the acronyms, but anyway, and it'll make something up for me, but that'll be good. But anyways, the idea is that it's a way to improve the answer you're getting out of, say, something like ChatGPT. So I think RAG will be the big thing for developers probably this year, to improve the frankly nonsense that comes out of ChatGPT sometimes.
Yeah, fine.
That is good. I think the question time is on me, Ridwan, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So we can go a bit deep about, you talked about development and developers, and they can use that AI tools while developing some code. When we talk about project managers, agile coach. So for example, I'm an agile coach, and how can I use AI while working with teams or organizations? The easy way, I know that I can ask some questions, but what do you think about the feature of Agilists? Also, AI can affect, how it can affect our life, in our also working life?
Yeah, well, I think it's just in many ways, it's an improvement, improved access to information or improved access to ideas. So I see one of the questions in the chat is, are we missing the human touch? And in some ways we are, but in some ways that is a phenomenally good thing. There are a lot of people out there. Like one of the big challenges right now with the Agile is dead movement, whatever you want to call that, is it's a backlash against these frankly really mediocre Agile coaches and Scrum coaches and Safe coaches who had a couple days of training. Maybe they've been on a project, almost always which failed, and now they're running around telling everybody they're a coach. And not bringing a lot of value to the table, right? They can run meetings better, or they can parrot, whatever they learned in their 2-day certification class, but they really don't know what they're talking about. Or they're focused on sometimes the human stuff, which is obviously important, the softer stuff. But sometimes I need answers to how do I actually do this, and I need a coach who knows what they're talking about. And so if we can use the chatbots to get better information about how do I do this, and this is where the RAG stuff comes in that I was talking about earlier, to up the game of the garbage coming out of ChatGPT. It's a lot better thing. So I think I would be phenomenally worried if I was for anybody who wants to be an Agile coach. I'd be very worried about getting replaced by AI. I think we're seeing it happen, and certainly I think the better coaches will learn how to use AI to augment the advice that they're getting, and to maybe open up their eyes to this concept that whatever it is they've been certified in and have been spewing for a few years now is only the tip of the iceberg of the information that's out there and the value that's out there that they could be offering. So I think there'll be great opportunity for the people who leverage AI, but that just won't be the coaches, and it won't just be the managers and team leads. It'll also be the people on the teams. And I think like I was saying earlier, I think the big challenge for Agile coaches is that it's a lot easier. If I've got access to a really good Agile chatbot, and frankly, they're being made, they're being made now, and in some cases being released out into the wild. If it's easier for me to use a chatbot than it is to, call you over to have a talk or fire up, some, tool like Zoom or something to have a chat with you, I'm going to do that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for the coaches to get replaced.
Also, we have one comment, also like a question from Ruma. Are we not missing the human touch when we talk about Agile Coach AI chatbots? Also, this question come before you explain this one. Do you want to add something to this question, or?
Yeah. Well, the answer is yes, and I think that for many people that's good. Particularly if you're coaching software development teams, they probably want a more technical interaction than a human touch interaction.
Yeah.
Say it. But that's the nature. That's the nature of those teams. It depends, but it's a matter of convenience, and it's also a matter of the quality of the answer that I'm getting out of the AI chatbot coach thing compared to the human coach that I'm interacting with. Now, if I can get as good or better answer out of the chatbot, and in most cases that's the case. There's a lot of studies now that are showing the chat. When the chatbots are built right, particularly in narrow domains, the answers coming out of them are better than what you get from the humans.
Yeah. I want to share my recent experiences about the AI and especially ChatGPT. This morning, I went to a hospital and then I see a doctor. So he wrote an examination reports. Of course, it includes lots of medical terms. So I put this whole explanation to ChatGPT and I asked them, please rephrase to well understood as a patient. So I got a response from the ChatGPT and I read all that. So it was really much more easy to understand than a doctor's comments. So,
Yeah.
but again, I saw some problematic sentences, and so then I decided to go deeply, and I decided to more explanation getting from the internet, and I saw some mistakes from ChatGPT's comments as well. So, in that perspective, what is the side effect of AI? What kind of things we need to be careful about that while we are using AI or other generative AI tools?
Well, yeah. So, and this is not just a generative AI issue. This is you've got to you've got to be a critical thinker, and you've got to understand what you're reading. So, from a privacy point of view, it's, for decades now, it's been known that the last thing that you should really be doing is giving detailed medical information to patients, because they don't understand it. It's probably going to freak them out. They're probably going to start doing things they shouldn't be doing, and it needs to be explained to them. So you're using ChatGPT to explain to you what maybe the doctor should have had time to explain to you and had the skills and all that sort of stuff. But the other challenge that was going on there was the level of your prompt engineering skills. I don't know what they are, but unless you're an expert prompt engineer, and most people aren't, then you've got to really be careful, and you got to have multiple. You got to know enough not to take ChatGPT at its word, because the fact is, you can give it a prompt, get an answer, give it the exact same prompt, and get a very different answer. And I would invite people to do that multiple times, and just to see that, oh my, because I've used the word nonsense, to describe what comes out of ChatGPT several times now, and yeah, it comes up with nonsense. Maybe you got a fairly decent answer the first time, maybe you didn't. I don't know, but what you're also talking about is basically what the RAG the RAG technique does, right? So it takes the information that came out of the doctor, and then and it's assuming that had come out digitally somehow, then it would take that information and write a really good solid prompt saying, okay, based on this, and there's ways to do this, based on this, blah 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 blah, answer this specific question. So then you get a significantly greater chance of getting better information, and that's basically what RAG is all about. It's all digital and better, but that. Yeah. So, but that's still not perfect, but it's way better than what you would, than whatever you would have more than likely come. Because I'm assuming that you're not a medical practitioner yourself, you had no idea what you're listening to. So it's way better than what you would have figured out on your own. Now, but then that leads to the next challenge, that people unfortunately are more likely to trust what's coming out of a computer than what's coming out of humans. That's a known psychological issue, but also there's this issue of should you have that information to begin with? Are you going to be able to act on, having more information sounds like it's a good idea, but how are you going to act on that information? There's a lot of real issues here, and so it gets down to some ethical issues and some moral issues as well. But you're going to do what you're going to do. So there's all the the libertarian point of view of it. Let you go off and do whatever you want to do, and it is what it is. Take responsibility for your actions. So
that is good. Also, I want to change the topic, Scott, if it's okay for you. That means you are co-founder of Disciplined Agile, so I want to ask some questions about DA when we catch to you.
Sure.
So let's start with the Disciplined Agile. What is Disciplined Agile? And then we will combine again some questions about DA and AI. So what is Disciplined Agile? And I like the story behind the Disciplined Agile. Maybe you can tell the story to us.
Yeah. So Disciplined Agile came out of IBM actually in the mid-aughts, or late aughts, I guess. So 2008, 2009 timeframe, where at the time I was the chief methodologist for IT at IBM Rational, and Mark Lyons was one of our many business partners. And so what happened was, this was a collaboration of IBMers, myself, and some of my team, and business partners, including Mark and a few others. And we co-developed Disciplined Agile delivery, the focus of which at the time was Agile software development, but also DevOps. So we were bringing DevOps stuff in because at the time DevOps was brand new, and people were still sort of figuring it out. So we really focused on the dev side of DevOps in the first release. And then Mark and I wrote a book, Disciplined Agile Delivery by IBM Press, which came out in 2012. And then I left IBM. Mark and I formed a company, which eventually became Disciplined Agile Inc., where we continued bringing Disciplined Agile into the marketplace, brought it into organizations in a very wide range of domains across the world, a lot in North America, particularly Canada, but certainly all over the world. And as I said, very wide domains. And it kept growing. So we very quickly brought it into the DevOps space, and in the IT space, we focused on that for a couple of years. But then we started focusing on enterprise agility, because as we kept running into challenges at organizations, it was always the next round of groups that we were interacting with that also needed to become more agile in order to become effective. So it just kept spreading like that. And then in 2019, we were purchased by PMI, Project Management Institute, who then helped us evolve DA further and brought it to their market. And it's there now. So Mark and I left PMI about a year and a half ago now. So PMI has been on their own, doing their own thing.
That is good. So the next question, also we will combine this topic again with AI, but before to go AI, my question is, you explained the discipline agile, and while we are talking with lots of companies, they are saying we are creating our own way of working. We don't want to follow some frameworks or some methods. So, but when you tell something about discipline agile, lots of people are reacting. Discipline agile is still some framework or methodology or tool. So we don't want to use, we want to choose our own way of working. What do you think about that topic, and what is your...
Yeah, that's incredibly unfortunate, because Disciplined Agile is all about helping you to choose your own way of working. So I think it's a reflection of like the black and white thinking, particularly in the software community. It's, well, either we're following a framework like SAFe and we're being told what to do, or we got to make it all up on our own, right? It can't be anywhere in between. And Disciplined Agile is the in-between answer. It's, so in Disciplined Agile, it describes, instead of telling you what to do, it tells you, here are the issues you need to consider, and here are some good options, and here are the trade-offs of those options. So choose the right strategies for you in the situation that you face, because the fact is you're not a process expert, and you never will be. So this idea that you can go off and figure out your own way of work, yeah, you can, but you're not going to get a very good answer, because you don't know what you're talking about, right? It's like, yesterday I was swimming, for example, and there was this gentleman in his mid-20s, and he was learning how to swim. And I think he had a lesson or two, but for the most part, he was just flailing around in the pool, doing his own thing. And yeah, you know what? He'll learn how to, I hope, he'll learn how to swim doing that. But frankly, it would be better off to get a little bit of guidance, a little bit of help from somebody who has swimming experience, who knows what they're talking about. And you can say, here's how you swim, and here are your different swimming techniques, and here are the trade-offs and all this stuff. So this is what DA is all about. It's giving you this better level of advice of how to choose your strategies. Now, the interesting implication of that was that, so we built all this before AI became popular. So in the last year or so, particularly with Gen AI, I think the game has shifted. So the database, the DA knowledge base, can, and I hope will be ingested into a generative AI to produce some sort of an agile coach, some sort of a choose your wow, choose your way of working type of a coach, because it's, all this information is encoded. It's there. You can see it. You can go to pmi.org and you can play around with the Disciplined Agile browser, which enables you to browse this huge knowledge base of information that you could leverage to improve your way of working. But wouldn't it be nice to put like a chatbot interface on top of all that and just say, what are my, in our retrospective, we realized that We needed a better approach to testing because we're in a critical regulatory compliance situation. What should we do? Well, that's an easy question to answer if you're an experienced Agile coach. But if you're only a Scrum coach, it's probably a very difficult question to answer because you don't know what you're doing because you've never hit that, and you certainly wouldn't have gotten that in your training. But it's in the knowledge. That sort of stuff is in like multiple options are in the knowledge base, you can either learn how to browse it, or you could use some sort of chatbot to get at that. So, or maybe some other interface. Who knows, right? But that's the basic idea. So I think it's unfortunate that DA tends to get lumped into frameworks because it's not a framework; it's a toolkit. But then the next step is for practitioners to have the humility to admit that they don't know everything they need to know, and they never will. It's not possible, and that they could leverage the learnings of others, and that's what the toolkit is all about. But it would be that 5 minutes of just shut your mouth and listen to what DA is all about, and then you can up your game dramatically as a coach, as a practitioner with DA. But it requires you to have the humility to recognize that you don't have the background that you need to actually choose your own way of working. You really don't, and it's just this unfortunate observation, I guess. But anyways, the opportunity's there if people want to take it. It's easy to learn if you take a few minutes of you just having enough humility to admit that you could use some help.
I wanna ask another question in terms of PMI and also disciplined agile collaboration, Scott, because you know that we used to use lots of PMI projects. Still, we are running some projects in PMI approach, and also we are collaborating as volunteer. We are collaborating with PMI chapters in MENA region and also other regions. So, what is the main objectives of PMI to collaborate with disciplined agile? That's really important issue. What is the value proposition for PMI for this collaboration?
Well, PMI owns Disciplined Agile, right? So, and they own the IP. So I think the real issue is it becomes one of how can they leverage their own IP? So or how can a project manager perhaps leverage the IP offered by PMI? And that would become, you need to understand how to use it, right? You need to understand what's there. But once again, it gets back to the humility to understand that, you can actually leverage the learnings of others, and, go beyond whatever framework has been forced upon you by your organization, or go beyond, what you've learned in your PMP training or in your SAFe training or in your Scrum training, and realize that you have options and that you need to choose. So I think one of the challenges in the Agile community is this fail fast mentality. Everybody loves to focus on all the good things about failing fast, but they also there's a huge blind spot there. You're still failing. And, and that's just stupid. I'm sorry, that's stupid. Yes, failing fast is better than failing slowly. And you can spin it, well, I didn't really fail, I learned. But you know what? Maybe there was an easier way to learn whatever you just learned by failing fast. So shut up. Have the humility to understand that maybe you don't need to fail at something that thousands of people before you have failed at. And maybe we could learn, and maybe we could observe, right? So I can go at my door right now, and I could, hopefully I don't see this, but I could see somebody slip on some ice. Well, I could go and I could slip on the ice too, and I could also fail fast and crack my face open. Or I could be smart and I could learn, you know what? Maybe I can learn from the fact that, that person slipped on the ice. I will also slip on the ice. Maybe I shouldn't walk on the ice. Didn't need to fail fast at that, right? I had to think. And so I think I would really invite Agilists to stop falling for all these fads. I've been in the Agile community since the beginning, and I've seen fads come and go. And failing fast is a fad. It really is. And there's a lot of other fads, the Nike test, for those of you who are old enough to remember that. There's a fad, or not the Nike test, the Nokia test. Sorry, the Nokia test. Come on.
Yeah, thank you for these honest comments, Scott. Thank you.
I think there is one question. This is one of my favorite questions. I think you will be happy to answer this question, Scott. And I want to say, our attendees, you can ask your questions and we can answer also. Scott can answer for us. Thanks for that. So the first question coming from our attendees, can you share the differences between Safe and Disciplined Agile versus Nexus?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So Safe and Nexus, and to a lesser extent Scrum, are frameworks. They tell you what to do. They tend to be prescriptive. They tend to have one way of doing things. There's great rhetoric around having consistent. I can't remember the way the Safe guys word it, but consistent ways of working and stuff like that, and not or low variance ways of working, or whatever it was. That's marketing nonsense. Whereas what happens is in DA, Disciplined Agile recognizes that context counts. Every person is unique, every team is unique, every organization is unique. You face a unique situation. So you should have a way of working that is fit for purpose for whatever situation you happen to be in. Now, that doesn't mean, here's where the black and white thinking gets in. That doesn't mean you need to go off and create everything from scratch, right? You can actually, pick things off the shelf. So when I go to make dinner tonight, I'm not going to go off and I'm not going to grow the wheat to make the pasta and then grow the tomatoes to make the sauce in order to have spaghetti tonight. I'm going to get a box of spaghetti, a jar of sauce. I'm going to boil the spaghetti. I'm going to heat up the sauce, pour it on, done, right? I don't need to invent everything, the entire spectrum of ingredient making, right? So I can reuse, I can take advantage of the fact that people have made pretty good spaghetti and pretty good sauce. I can just combine them into my unique dinner tonight. So you can do the same thing with process stuff. And that's what DA is all about. It helps you. It describes, here are the issues you need to think about. Here's how you can combine things. Here are the trade-offs of this type of pasta versus that type of pasta versus that type of pasta versus that type of pasta. So choose the pasta that your kids are going to like tonight. Choose the sauce. Is it rosé? Is it tomato? Is it Alfredo? Is it this? Is it that? Choose the right sauce with the right pasta with the right this and the right that. Combine them all into dinner. So, and then tomorrow's dinner will be different again, right? Because the situation has changed. And I can't have spaghetti and meat sauce 2 nights in a row because there'll be an uprising. So, so stuff like that, right? So, so DA is really all about, here's how you combine these process ingredients to form your own way of working that makes sense for you. Whereas the frameworks are basically, a really good meal is the Big Mac deal from McDonald's. You're going to eat that tonight. Oh, and the other team over here tomorrow. So tomorrow's dinner, a really good meal is the Big Mac meal from McDonald's. You're going to eat that tonight. And then on Friday, a really good meal is the Big Mac meal from McDonald's. You're going to eat that on Friday night. This is what the frameworks do, right? They say, here's the one way of doing things. Boom. There you go. Now, Safe is getting a little more flexible over the years because their reality is starting to hit. But the other methods or the other frameworks, you really step back. and when there's one way of doing things, that's prescriptive. Yeah. When they're telling you, don't use, our framework, because that's evil, that's prescriptive.
Yeah. Well, you're right.
Yeah. That's good answer. So maybe we can ask 2 more questions if it's okay for you, Scott, and then we can finish in 5 or 7 seconds, in 5 or 7 minutes. So, Rizwan, do you have question also?
Yeah, maybe we can go deeply again, because the explanation is really important to frameworks versus toolkits, right? When they need to use these kind of toolkits, because actually countries, companies, and also government institutions in different phase of their journeys, right? Scott, some of them newcomers for Agile world, some of them really mature on that perspective, that companies or that place. So when and how they can use Disciplined Agile's tools?
Yeah, so Disciplined Agile is more of a I hate to use the term maturity model, but you've really got to be a little more mature. So for example, I was using this analogy or metaphor of cooking dinner tonight. Well, that, it's easy for me to say, pick the right pasta, pick the right sauce, do whatever, there's a meal, because I've cooked a few meals. I know what I'm doing. But if I've never cooked a meal, then having a shelf with a bunch of options of pasta and a bunch of sauce options and a bunch of meat options, a bunch of vegetable options is overwhelming. I don't know what to, I wouldn't know what to do, right? So that's where the framework. So the frameworks provide the recipes. Here's how this detailed life cycle works. Here's how you form your team. Here's how portfolio management works. And there really is one, and they really do. I appreciate there's one person saying that it's not true, but it really is. Like when there's one way of, here's the one way you do portfolio management, and then the advice is, oh, but if you want, you can go off and tailor it to meet your own needs, but there's no tailoring advice for the most part. Then it's still, it's a recipe, right? It's just like, the book, The Joy of Cooking. There's, I don't know, a couple thousand recipes in there, which is great. And yeah, I can, if I know what I'm doing, I'm going to tailor each of those recipes. But if I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't have a chef who's there coaching me how to tailor it, then I'm just going to follow the recipe because I'd be foolish not to. And I think that's what's really going on there, right? So it's, saying that the frameworks are flexible. Yeah, sure, the frameworks are flexible. Oh, but I've got to hire these really expensive coaches to help to evolve it. Come on. Good. That's great consultant wear. I love it. Great consultant wear, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last question also, this is our classical question. What would you advise Agilists about AI and non-AI also, like Disciplined Agile or adapting Agile transformation? What is your advice?
Well, I think, so the question gets to, are you using AI to help you better do your job? Well, then there's going to be a lot, there are some great AI tools out there and more are coming out, right? So over the next couple of years, we're just going to be overwhelmed with AI-based toolings or tooling augmented by AI is hopefully a little bit better. But if you're building AIs, then you need to know what you're doing, right? You need to have the skills to get the job done. And I think you need to understand the ethical implications. You need to understand the data implications of what you're doing. You need to have a life cycle that reflects the reality of what you're doing. So, if you look at the machine learning life cycles, which is what most organizations are going to be doing, they're arguably phased, right? You need to do some initial envisioning. So right now, AI initiatives, and I hate to use the word project because it's not really a project. AI initiatives have a 20% success rate. Most of them fail. Now that'll get better over time, but and they fail for multiple reasons. But a lot of it, you don't have the data you need, or it was a really bad idea, maybe, or you don't have the data you need, or the data quality is no good. There's many good reasons for why these efforts fail, but you need to do some initial envisioning. You need to understand the domain that you're in, what you're trying to achieve, do a little bit of upfront design, certainly understand your data, at least at a very high level, understand the data, where it's coming from, what the quality is, and do some basic viability checking as to, is this viable? Because chances are the answer is no. So I want to take this out and shoot it as soon as I can if the answer is no. And given that it's an 80% chance that it's a bad idea, I definitely want to do a little bit of upfront thinking. Then I go into construction, and that's a very iterative thing. And generally, short sprints are not the way to go. It's more of a continuous delivery, continuous experimentation type of a thing. And then I deploy, assuming everything's successful, big assumption, assuming it's successful, it eventually gets out there into the wild. And depending on the nature of the domain, I might be updating this thing every few minutes, every few days, every few weeks, every few months. Depends on what the problem domain is. So, but I'm going to be updated. So this is why it's not a project. It's an ongoing product, not a single one-shot project. So you got to be really smart about that. So from an Agile point of view, it's really a hybrid. It's not pure. It's not it's certainly not a Scrum. I've never seen Scrum mentioned in the AI literature. Or any of the Agile, very little of the Agile stuff mentioned at all in any sort of AI books or AI literature. And yet here we are, we got all these people developing it. So I think, that's an interesting observation people should take to heart. But, the reality is, if you look at the way that AI development teams work, it's much more of a DevOpsy or MLOps way of working rather than an Agile way of working. So I think, it's more continuous delivery, lean continuous delivery rather than Agile incremental.
Thank you so much. I think it was a great session, and we completed the 50 minutes. So it was short for us. We can talk as maybe more, but I think we can stay in limits. And many thanks, Scott, and to accept our invitation. And we are lucky because it was our first webinar, and we were with you also in this first webinar. And many thanks for accept our invitation.
Thank you, Scott. And also, I just want to thank to open sharing and also honest sharing for your time. Thank you. Thank you.
So we will keep in touch. Also, the next webinar will be maybe in next month, and we will also share the whole details with our attendees. And we want to say thank you to our also volunteering team, because we are in 2 phases in there, but in back 9 more people is helping us. So what will happen in next time? Also, we will change to different faces, and you will see different faces in our community. So we want to say thank you, our volunteers, and we want to thank you to our attendees. Lots of more than 70 people attended to our session, and also in offline, lots of people will watch. So thanks again, Scott, and thanks, Ridwan. Thanks for all.
Yeah,
and see you again.
Welcome. We can invite lots of volunteers. If they want, they can join us, and we are so welcome for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.